Hey everybody, Susan here with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have a Stampin' Show and Tell for you today. Now remember, if you need the instructions, you can go to the PDF tutorial library on my blog, pumpkinhillstampers.com. And if you just need to know all the products I use so that you can try your own version of a card or the technique, you can hop over to the blog post that's on the comments below, and all the details will be there for you. So don't forget to use the blog. It's a great tool for me to keep track of what I've shared and for you to get access to the information you might need. Okay, so today we are doing obviously a winter scene card. We are using the Waterfront stamp set for our images, and then I'm borrowing the Here's to a Season Filled with Warmth, Comfort, and Good Cheer from the First Frost stamp set. So I'm kind of putting the two sets together to make this card. So I was tasked with creating a Christmas card for a demo swap before our holiday catalog came out. So we had to use just products that were in the current annual catalog, and those were the two sets that I decided I could pair together. Now, addition to that, we are doing a watercolor wash technique with our background, but first we're going to do heat embossing for the images of the trees and the snow. Then we're going to layer that up, obviously. I also decided to do a die cut and kind of create a focal point, right? Or they call that spotlighting. Couldn't think of the term there for a minute. Spotlighting an image. So we're kind of going to spotlight part of those trees. And then I did something different with my flax ribbon as well. Flax ribbon is generally twice that width. Okay, and I decided I didn't want a super wide ribbon on here. So I cut it down the middle, right? I cut it lengthwise to make it half as much. So I'll show you how I add that to my card as well. So let's go ahead and get going. There are some different phases of this set doing these techniques. So I want to make sure the video doesn't get too long. Okay, so there is our sample. First, we're going to start by stamping with Versamark our trees and our snowfall. So from the Waterfront set, I'm going to start with my trees. So I'm going to stamp with my Versamark, and I'm just going to come along the bottom edge. Not exactly the edge, I want some white underneath, but try to come across kind of in a straight line with my trees. Okay, and they can overlap. It's kind of hard to see Versamark on white, so don't worry if they overlap a little bit. Right, forests are never straight in a row. Then I'm just going to add some snowfall to the top of those trees with my dotted stamp. So now while that is still wet with Versamark, I need to dust it. So I have one of our old trays, and I leave my, when I'm doing a bunch of them, I leave my embossing powder in there, and then I just kind of let it fall over my card. I just kind of sweep it across and give it a tap. Maybe a flick or two just to kind of make sure I got any excess off. And I know that's really hard to see on the video, but I can see that my trees are well coated in that embossing powder. Okay, now I'm not going to heat emboss on camera today because that takes time and it's kind of loud, but I do need to sweep off all that emboss powder I just sent all over my workspace. So my husband always says, good thing you're the one that cleans the house. Yep, it's a good thing. Okay, so I have one that I've already heat embossed. So now we're going to do our watercolor wash. So I just squeeze my pad to put some ink on my lid. Now if you've got some of the newer pads and they're not so easy to squeeze, take your re-inker and just drop a little re-inker into the lid if you want to, and then you're just going to use your aqua painter, and I'm going to drop, bring that up here a little bit, I don't want it tipped so far back. I'm just going to drop a little bit of water through my aqua painter onto my palette here, right, our own specialty palette. And then, by heat embossing my image, it's going to resist taking the color of the watercolor ink. So I am going to just paint right over the top of my embossed image. See how it makes those trees pop? So I'm just painting that wintry sky behind my image. Now when I did the first couple, I had really light Night and Navy color wash, and it was okay, but then I decided I really wanted it to be kind of like a night scene, so I went back and watercolored over the top of it to make it darker. You can see this one's much darker. But watercolor wash is definitely one of those techniques where you're going to get different effects each time depending on how much ink you have, how wet your brush is, you know, how many times you go in and put layers on it. So this one kind of fades out at the top, and I kind of like that too. So you're going to end up with a variety of cards if you're making multiples. Okay, and if you want to come a little bit lower, like I want to come just a little bit lower along the bottoms of these trees just to really give it a little definition, you can go back and add some color right in there. Alright, so that's how I did my watercolor wash. That wasn't hard, right? And remember, when you put your ink away, you want to use a paper towel and dry that water up. You don't want it to go into your ink pad or it's going to dilute it. Okay, but we're not done with that ink pad yet, so I'm just going to set that over here for a second. So now I have some of the ink on top of my trees. All I do is I flip it over and I rub it onto my scrap mat just to kind of blot it. You could use, you know, one of our chamois if it's clean, or you could just use a paper towel if you're not going to get lint and just kind of dry off those trees. But see how the watercolor wash, it painted it, but it didn't paint the trees. Okay, so there is the heat embossing step and the watercolor washing step. So now the spotlighting step, that's the next piece. So I'm going to bring in another one that's dry, okay, and you can see as it dries it kind of curls up on the edges, so we're going to use nice effective adhesive when we put that down. So I'm using a layered circle die to do my spotlighting. I didn't want any fancy stitched around my edges, so I'm just going to back up my plate. I'm going to put that down, and then I'm going to use my circle die to find where I want to highlight. Now I am going a little to the left because I'm going to stamp my sentiment on the right. So I kind of wanted the two to offset each other. If you're one of those people who likes everything right down the middle, go for it. It's your card. Make it the way you want it. But this was my thinking. So my card, my thinking. But I share it with you and you can do what you want with it. So here we go. So now I have my die cut spotlighted piece, right? So what do we do now? Let's start putting our card together. So I'm going to take my snail adhesive and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add adhesive. Now I'm not only going to do the edge of my rectangle piece here. It's got a little extra there on the edge. Right, because I want to make sure that's down, because when you watercolor on paper, it kind of wants to lift. So make sure you add enough adhesive so it really sticks. But as you can see, I'm also putting adhesive around my cut circle. Now this is going to go onto a piece of Night and Navy, so it's going to frame it, kind of box it, bring attention to it, and I'm just going to put that right down like that. Alright, now this is going to go here on dimensionals, but we're going to do our ribbon first. Let's see. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's do the spotlighting first. So I've got my die cut. Now as you can see, I've got a nice dark edge around my spotlight. This is how I did that. I take my cutout circle. You've seen me do this before. Can you tell me what I'm going to do? I bet you can. I'm going to roll it on my ink pad like a wheel. Roll it right along, just picking up a little bit of that ink, just dyeing the edge. So instead of having a white edge, I'm going to have a blue edge, but I don't have to add a layer of paper. Okay, so now my spotlighting piece is done. So let me go ahead and put this on the card with dimensionals. Now because we cut it out of that card piece, it's going to be exactly the same size. So you want to get it set back on there pretty close to where you took it out. And you also want to line up your horizon line from where you watercolor washed those trees, right? You wouldn't want a weird line. You got to try to line that up. Okay, from here we're going to add our ribbon. Okay, so here's my ribbon. So I'm actually going to take the ribbon and I'm going to cut it into 2 parts. So I have enough ribbon here. So I'm going to wrap and tack that on the back. I'm going to add a little bit of snail on this side, add a little bit of snail on that side, wrap and tack. So I'm just going to bring it across, pull it around the back, stick it into that snail on the back side. Okay, that's easy enough. And then I'm just going to put this one underneath, because I didn't tack down that front. Put this underneath. I'm going to tie myself a nice simple knot. And tie that tight. Now, obviously I cut this a lot longer because originally I was going to wrap it and tie a bow. But I decided I would show you this cute little trick. So now I can bring these up, trim those off, and then here's something I liked about the flax. I can separate these threads and kind of make it like a tassel end, but you got to come along and pull off kind of little pieces that held all that together, and then you can just kind of smooth those out a little bit. So I'm going to do that on both sides. So just kind of pulling apart that flax ribbon. So it kind of reminded me like a scarf. Since it was winter time, I kind of thought, well, that's a nice little effect. I'll go with that. So again, I take off those little pieces, tiny little fibers, and there is my focal point all dressed up. So I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of this. Now here's something else I do. I put dimensionals right over those ribbons, just as like an extra reinforcement to keep them in place on my card. Now, before I put that down on my card, I want to stamp my sentiment. So, with my Night of Navy, everything is keeping with Night of Navy. I'm going to ink my stamp, brush those fibers away, ink my stamp, and put it right down in this corner, nice and clean. Now I'm going to go ahead and peel off my backers on my dimensionals. And then I'll position this on my card right here near the top. And we're finished. Now I think I haven't mentioned yet that I stamped and made the card on shimmer white. So in addition to all of that embossing and watercoloring, it's also got a little bit of shimmer in the paper itself. So it kind of adds to the wintry feel, the frosted look. So I hope you enjoyed all these fun little techniques. Try them in your projects. They're not difficult. And enjoy your stamping, enjoy your holiday crafting. And if you need any help, like I said, hop over to the blog. I've got the tutorial there for you. I've got product information. And if you wanted to stamp together, just reach out. We can do that. I'm more than happy to get together with you and do some fun stamping. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed today. Leave me a comment, or better yet, hop over to the blog and leave me a comment. I love getting them over there. It's like early Christmas for me. Okay, everybody. I'll see you the next time. Bye-bye.